The Lands Between is located across the fog, and the fundamental question I've had about Elden Ring is how we're meant to approach this fog. And what I mean by fog is simply anything that's ambiguous or unclear, because regardless of whether you're playing through the game for the first time or you've read every item description up and down, you will find quite a lot of essential details about the story remain shrouded. And maybe this is a controversial take, but none of the lore-heavy interpretations of the game have really been able to compensate for those missing details with a clarifying vision. And so, after spending a fair amount of time trying to connect the dots myself, I decided to reassess my priors. What if Elden Ring's lore operates in a fundamentally different way than it did for other FromSoft titles? What if Miyazaki, surveying the various conceptual frameworks employed by the lore community to understand his previous games, took it upon himself to craft a meta that circumvented those frameworks? Does that really seem like something beyond the pale for this demented freak? It was with that possibility in mind that I started to look more closely at examples of cryptography in art, which quickly transformed into a closer look at steganography. Cryptography is securing messages with algorithms and codes. Steganography, on the other hand, is the practice of representing information within another message or physical object. So it's information within information, and specifically, it's a way of embedding information within information that does not announce the presence of concealed information. So an unsuspecting person would not recognize concealment has taken place. Steganography struck me as a more promising avenue than cryptography, simply because it was difficult for me to imagine a scenario where cryptography could be incorporated within Elden Ring in a way that would be fun to play. Steganography, on the other hand, is kind of inherently about representation and perception. There are rhetorical, psychological, and aesthetic elements built into its premise. And in theory, I thought that could work as a complement to Elden Ring's design as a game. Steganography has been around for quite a while. According to Wikipedia, the first recorded instance was in 500 BC, and it reads that way. So here's that initial historical technique. All right, you ready? So what you do is you find your most obedient servant, okay? Shave his head, and mark your message on his scalp. So then you send your servant to your most loyal vassal after the hair has regrown, and you just tell the servant to the vassal to shave my head. I love you. And then the vassal could see the message. Steganography. That's the magic of steganography. More refined methods have emerged since then. I guess the most straightforward steganographic technique is invisible ink, and that's been around for a really long time. There's many ancient recipes, the first of which was recorded around 217 BCE. It was made by Philo of Byzantium, who also invented the repeating crossbow. So that's pretty cool. But it really wasn't until 1499 that steganography was formally defined in the Steganographia, written by Johannes Trithemius. If you picked up the Steganographia when it was first published, you'd think you were reading a book about natural magic. So you'd likely react as Johannes's peers did by suggesting he burn the book immediately and never discuss it again. But Johannes was performing a sleight of hand. The magic incantations written within the book serving as a cover text to conceal encrypted communications about cryptography. So even before the book was published and Johannes was just kind of showing the manuscript around town, there was controversy brewing, and let's talk about that technique for a second. The cover text that Johannes adopts arguably causes more controversy and suspicion than the actual subject of the book, which was cryptography. And this controversy only spirals further with the actual publication of the book in 1605, so after Johannes had passed away. The book came in 3 volumes, and the published book actually included solutions to the ciphers in the first 2 volumes. But the uncertainty about the intentions behind the book continued to swirl around. Part of what fueled speculation after the reveal of the ciphers in the first 2 volumes was the existence of Volume 3. Did that also contain ciphers? If so, why not include a solution for those as well? If it doesn't have ciphers, how do we interpret that? Does that mean that it's not cover text and represents Johannes's sincere beliefs? Cryptographer Jim Reed summarized the centuries of controversy since the book's publication this way. Johannes Trithemaeus is a man with at least 3 distinct reputations, the apparent contradictions among which have generated controversy for almost 5 centuries. We have Trithemaeus, the German Renaissance humanist. Then there is Trithemaeus, one of the founders of modern science of cryptology, the author of the first printed work on cryptography, the Polygraphia of 1518. And finally, there is Trithemaeus the occultist, student of the Kabbalah, the author of an ambiguous, mysterious, demonological, and cryptographic book, the Steganographia. Much of this controversy centers around the intent of the Steganographia. Is it primarily an exposition of cryptographic techniques disguised as angel magic? Or is it primarily a magic work disguised as cryptography? So this quote is from a paper Jim Reed's published in 1998, where he announced his discovery of a solution to the 3rd volume. So, literally 500 years after the book was initially written, Jim Reed's makes this discovery. And that's what I'm talking about when I say that Steganography has kind of a showmanship aspect to it. If Johannes had just published a book of ciphers without the cover text, you wouldn't get centuries of discussion about the intention of your work. You wouldn't have new discoveries about your book dropping 500 years after it was written. It's great. It's a fun time. And this to me is kind of the gold standard of esoteric knowledge transmission. Because not only did it take centuries to uncover, it was uncovered by the intuition of another master in the field, Jim Reed's. And, this is one of the commonly understood reasons for, alchemists to encrypt their work behind symbols is to ward off pretenders. And in fact, Johannes begins the 3rd book by saying, "This I did that to men of learning and men deeply engaged in the study of magic, it might, by the grace of God, be in some degree intelligible, while on the other hand, to the thick-skinned turnip eaters, it might for all time remain a hidden secret, and be to their dull intellects a sealed book forever. Yeah, so I mean, Miyazaki does incorporate esoteric design principles within his games, but like he's never hit, a note like Johannes hit, and is that fair? Is that fair for us to hold Miyazaki to the standards of the Steganographia? I mean, why not? I'm sure that Miyazaki could appreciate the showmanship angle, of embedding data so effectively that it takes centuries to detect. This is his magnum opus. The meta as we understand it could still be improved. And if it was improved, we might not notice unless we start discussing things or analyzing things wait, what is that? Hold up. Do you see the serpent? What the fuck? So you got those two eyes, and then the mouth. I've never seen that before. That's crazy. That actually makes a lot of is this, what is this? Have people discussed this before? Like, I've never seen a post about how there's like a huge fucking serpent in the clouds next to the Gate of Divinity before. That's like really interesting. I mean, it it kind of looks like pareidolia, but it's also just seems to me like, would that really be a coincidence? I mean, because the serpent, because we know that there is there's the abyssal serpent, there's the god-devouring serpent, and, the Gate of Divinity, when it's in the trailer, it resembles the innards of the god-devouring serpent, like the viscera, as if like, the inside of the snake were used to mold the gate. So it's really fucking interesting that there's a serpent right here. Wow. Anyway, back to the meta evaluation. So yeah, Miyazaki should, there are things that Miyazaki could do to improve his meta, and the thing is, like, he might have already done that. So it's worth considering, how he might go about doing this overhaul so that we can actually uncover it. And I couldn't help but notice as I read through the accounts, the theories about what was actually going on in the Steganographia, that the people engaged in those discussions are in kind of a similar circumstance to, the Tarnished trying to interpret signs from the Golden Order, but also, FromSoft fans trying to unpack this deeply ambiguous work, Elden Ring, and what the intention behind this game ultimately was.